How I persuaded my brain to enjoy hard work. Purge of dopamine. You probably have no trouble using your phone to access social media or play video games. In fact, I have no doubt that you could continue to maintain your focus while watching both of those things for up to 2 hours when seated in front of a screen. What about 30 minutes of study time? It might be too difficult. How about spending an additional hour working on your side project? Sounds not all that enticing. You enjoy watching TV, playing video games, and reading through social media even though you rationally know that studying, working out, starting a business, or something hugely important will benefit you more in the long term. Hello there! This is the Financial Fortune, and in this video, we are going to discuss dopamine and how we can take advantage of it for us to enjoy hard work. Please don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we release new videos. Alright, first, let's talk about dopamine. Dopamine is frequently thought of as a pleasure molecule, but it doesn't quite work that way. It is dopamine that causes our cravings. And it is this desire that drives us to get up and do action. In actuality, your brain creates priorities largely dependent on how much dopamine it anticipates receiving. You won't be motivated to do something if too little dopamine is released during it. However, if an action causes a large amount of dopamine to be released, you'll be motivated to do it repeatedly. So what actions cause dopamine release? Any activity that you engage in with the expectation of receiving a reward releases it. However, your brain won't release it if you are aware that there are no immediate benefits to the behavior. For instance, your brain releases dopamine before eating comfort food because you expect the food to make you feel good, even if it actually worsens how you feel. That's because your brain doesn't even consider if the high levels of dopamine are harmful to you. It only desires more of it. A stereotypical illustration would be a drug addict. He is aware of the harm his actions are causing him. He just cares about getting more of that drug though. In addition to making you high, cocaine and heroin release excessive amounts of dopamine, which increases your desire for them. Naturally, it must be recognized that almost anything releases some dopamine. It even does if you drink water while you're thirsty. But when you receive a reward at random, your dopamine levels are at their maximum. Playing slots in a casino is one such example. You gradually anticipate receiving a larger reward even up to the time you have only been losing money. You simply can predict when it might occur. And even if we aren't aware of it, we are constantly supplying our brains with abnormally high levels of dopamine in today's digital world. Scrolling through social media, playing video games, seeing internet pornography, etc. are a few instances of high dopamine habits. With each of those behaviors, we look forward to receiving some kind of reward. We continually check our phones because of this. We anticipate receiving a text message or some type of information, and we are confident that we will get it eventually. What are your high dopamine habits? Comment them down below. There are other types of addicts as well. The same thing happens to people who are addicted to video games, social media, or online pornography. They can no longer appreciate low dopamine behaviors when their dopamine tolerance is too high. This raises the question of whether anything can be done to stop it. The solution is that you must go through a dopamine detox. Perhaps you already have a notion of what dopamine detox will involve. You must designate a day when you will refrain from engaging in any highly stimulating activities. You're going to quit overdosing your brain with dopamine and give your dopamine receptors a chance to heal. Just a warning, if you're abusing drugs, I advise you to seek professional help as you've likely developed a physiological and psychological reliance, and I don't want any severe withdrawal symptoms to strike you. Coming back to the detox now. You'll make an effort to have as little enjoyment as possible for an entire day. You won't be using the internet or any other technology such as your computer or phone. You are not permitted to consume any junk food. In essence, you're going to disregard all external sources of pleasure for the entire day. You're going to enjoy being idle, and there will be a lot of boredom, I assure you. However, you are permitted to do the following. Take a stroll, spend some time alone in meditation, consider your ambitions and life. Note any suggestions you have, not on your phone or computer, but rather on actual paper. This may all seem very intense, but you need to be able to take drastic action if you want radical outcomes and you want them quickly. It deprives you of all the joy you typically experience, which makes those less pleasurable pursuits more alluring. Simply speaking, dopamine detox works because boredom makes uninteresting things more enjoyable. You can execute a small dopamine detox if you don't want to go such extremes and deprive yourself of all the pleasure. You're going to choose one day every week to avoid entirely one of your high dopamine behaviors. Whatever that behavior may be, maybe you're constantly checking your phone, playing computer games, binge watching TV, or eating unhealthy foods. And moving forward, you're going to refrain from doing that activity for an entire day, every single week. You are not prohibited from engaging in other behaviors, but only in the one you choose. You will indeed feel a little bit bored, but that is the goal. You need to give your brain's dopamine receptors time to recuperate from the excessive amounts of dopamine that have been flooding it, and boredom will encourage you to engage in other activities that day. Things you might ordinarily put off because they don't trigger a high dopamine response. It's also simpler for you to complete them because you're bored. Of course, it's a good idea to occasionally refrain from high dopamine behavior, but ideally, you should abstain from those actions entirely, or at the very least, limit your use of them. Instead, you want to increase the dopamine connections to the things that will benefit you. I consider that your current high dopamine activities can work as a motivator to pursue activities that genuinely provide you with those long-term advantages. In other words, you may use your high levels of dopamine as a motivator to finish challenging tasks. The terms after and at the end of the day are crucial here. I won't feel like doing the low dopamine work if I engage in high dopamine activities beforehand. Simply said, I won't have enough motivation. Therefore, I always start with challenging tasks before allowing myself to engage in high dopamine activities. Additionally, it should be highlighted that treating an addictive habit as a reward is not a good idea if it harms your health. Find a different, less harmful reward instead, one that you continue to believe justifies the effort. Making difficult tasks feel simpler is feasible. You won't be as enthusiastic about working on something that doesn't release a lot of dopamine, though, if your brain is constantly receiving so much of it. You may want to minimize your use of your phone, computer, and other activities that release a lot of dopamine, and I can assure you that it is unquestionably worthy. Therefore, if you struggle with motivation, begin dopamine brain detoxing as soon as possible. Remove yourself from the excessively high dopamine levels, or at the very least, expose yourself to them much less frequently. Only then will ordinary low dopamine tasks become interesting once more, and you'll be able to perform them for a longer period of time. To some degree, all of us are addicted to dopamine. Dopamine drives us to accomplish our goals and better ourselves. Therefore, that's a wonderful thing. However, it is entirely up to you to choose how you will obtain dopamine. Will you obtain it from sources that will not benefit you? Or will you achieve it by focusing on your long-term objectives? Your decision is yours. I hope this video gave you an idea of how to work with dopamine. You can also check out our video about game theory or the playlist we made about success. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. This is the Financial Fortune, and thank you for watching.